Someone who's editing this, play the MSN sound, like the or whatever it was. I'm probably misremembering, but remember that sound well. I'm not entirely sure what the age demographic for this channel is. I can tell you it's about 18 to 35 tends to be the demographic, with most people being in the latter range of that. So more like 25 to 35, but 18 to 35 is the big grouping. That's Dave who writes this. I run the channel, so I get access to the back end and know all of these little secrets. Dave, you're welcome. I'm no longer in my demographic. I moved out of it a couple of years ago, which was a bit weird because it's still like when I started, I was in the younger end of it, and now I'm in the older end. Now I'm not even in it anymore. Back in the day, the internet was a wild place. Oh my God, was it? Like back in the day, you could just go online, be like, what do you want to buy? Cocaine, guns, new identity. Silk Road was wild, dude. Like I went on there back in the day. I never bought anything on there because I don't know. I don't really want to buy heroin, but it had all sorts of crazy shit on there, dude. You could like buy a passport.
You can stop at 5 or 6 stores or just one.
Before broadband was invented, you had to use a dial-up modem connected to the same phone line as your normal landline telephone, and unless you were really posh and had an extra line, your internet connection might very well be interrupted because your mum wanted to call Auntie Pat. I mean, this is all very true, and indeed my mum did have an Auntie Pat. Given that it might take you 3 hours to download a single MP3 track, being cut off at 96% could be very irritating indeed. Yes, also because they didn't used to have, like, before download managers, it just used to be like, oh, yeah, you're 96%. That's it. That's it. It's done. No more. You have to start again. I am old. I remember a time when dial-up modems were not even installed in computers. Yes, I remember they were external devices. It was, you got like a modem, a modulator, demodulator. It would be like, bang, bang, bang. Oh man, I'm feeling old. But you are! Just before we continue, something new from a regular and favorite sponsor of the show, and that is Vessie footwear. Vessie make waterproof shoes. So you've heard me talk about them before. They make a whole bunch of different styles of shoes, and they're all made of something called Dymatex, which basically means that despite not looking or feeling like waterproof shoes, they are 100% waterproof because of that Dymatex material. And also, summer is just coming to an end. Yesterday it was 30 degrees. Today it's raining, which is good for Vessies because they keep your feet dry. But your feet don't sweat in them, despite them being waterproof, which is I call it witchcraft. They call it Dymatex, but it's fantastic. It's great. These are a new pair, a new style, courtside classics, and very versatile shoes. Like, perfect for the weather, of course, and keeping your socks dry, but also these would work out and about, at the office, wherever. It's just a very versatile shoe, which I, of course, would recommend that you purchase. And how best to do that? Well, that would be by going to vessie.com/blaze, because you'll get 15% off your first purchase at checkout. I own many pairs of Vessies. I don't wear anything else, and I think you shouldn't either. So vessie.com/blaze, thank you to them. And now back to today's video. My first internet-connected system required you to pick up your landline phone and place it in a cradle connected to the computer so that said computer could communicate with the outside world. Whoa, I never had that. We just had it plugged in to like the telephone cord, box, socket thing. Even when broadband became a thing, and due to the unbelievable generosity of my next-door neighbor, I was one of the very first people in the UK to experience this lightning-fast technology. It wasn't broadband as we know it today. I remember when broadband was first installed, I think we had like 56k, or maybe we had an ISDN. So it was like 112 kilobytes a second or something, kilobits a second. And then we got broadbands, and I think it was like 500, 600-ish. Yeah, not even 1 megabit. I'm thinking, whoa, that's actually quite fast, but no, it's 1,000 times slower than the current internet. So it was a lot faster though. It's like half a megabit.
I fucking nailed it.
When it was first installed, it was advertised as 10 times faster than a standard dial-up connection. Well, that would make sense. If a standard dial-up connection was 56.6k, then you had 500 to 600 megabits a second on broadband, which sounds about right. And whilst this was true, that still only provided you with half a megabit download speed. Yes, Dave and I think Dave and I are exactly the same age. All that moaning aside, moaning that, were this the early 2000s, you would have had to watch interspersed with frequent buffering, I think, on balance, the internet was better better back then, and if you'll indulge me, I shall provide you with a plethora of reasons why. Look, Dave, everyone knows that it was awesome that you could buy heroin on the internet back in the day. Now you have to use Instagram like a normal person, but dude, I've never bought drugs off Instagram. I don't really use Instagram, but I do know that you can. Also, if you want to know where your local drugs are being sold, Telegram. I was at the gym and my trainer was like, dude, Telegram's like where everyone buys drugs now. And I'm like, what? Telegram's what I use to chat with one friend of mine because he's not on WhatsApp. And terrorists use it or something, right? Allegedly. But if you go onto Telegram, if you go into like people near me or groups near me, and then you go into those groups, they all have names that, you know, it's got like a picture of a little tree or something, you know, like trees, like weed. And you just go in there and it's like, holy shit, dude, people are selling like crack cocaine, heroin, guns. Telegram is wild, dude.
Go crazy. Go stupid. Go crazy.
Free music was easy to obtain. Yeah, okay, look, before you even get started on this, one, it was piracy, so you weren't even paying the artists, which, I mean, allegedly, I sailed the high seas. But now we have Spotify. It's like £10 a month, and it's all the music that you could ever want, other than some real rarities that you have to source from Discogs. But it's better. Like, I'm happy to pay my £10 a month for not having the hassle and it just all syncing between, and you could just sit in the car and be like, play me this song on Spotify. Any song that you could think of in your mind that's basically ever existed. It's incredible. Before we get started, I'm perfectly aware that it is possible to download movies, music, etc. via file-sharing sites today. He sailed the high seas. However, thanks to Lars Ulrich and a bunch of other greedy bastards, it's nowhere near as easy as it used to be. Who the f*** is Lars Ulrich?
It's some kind of emo thing. I don't know what the f*** it is.
Back then, if you wanted to download a song and you had an hour or two for it to download, all you had to do was browse to Napster.com, search for your song, and hit download. Granted, you would not always get the song you thought you were going to get, or if you did, you might not get the entire song, but taking the gamble was part of the fun. Yeah, I remember I had one song, allegedly, in my collection. It was allegedly a Van Morrison song, Brown Eyed Girl, allegedly. And it would cut off after like 2 minutes. And so that is all of the song that I knew. Even today, if I hear that song on Spotify, I'll know the words up to 2 minutes and then just be like, don't know any of the others, because that's where my allegedly high C song cut off, because it was back in the day. It's how it worked. Nowadays, file sharing sites are a pain in the arse. Sorry, I made a mistake there. What I should say now is that file sharing sites are a pain in the arse. I have heard. Yeah, I have heard that piracy is a lot harder to get set up, but once you're set up, it's actually it's a lot easier and faster, allegedly.
That's got to be the best pirate I've ever seen. So it would seem.
The last time a friend of mine, who definitely wasn't me, attempted to use such a site, they discovered that the internet provider had blocked access to it, and it was necessary to employ the services of a VPN just to get you the software. Also, even if you are somehow able to gain access to file sharing site, find what you're looking for and download it, there's a very real possibility that you may be downloading malicious software as part of your music bundle, which again is, I have heard, part of the setup of when you start pirating stuff. And this is like I keep saying allegedly, but this isn't something I've actually done. Like, nowadays I just pay for because I got money. But I mean, not that I ever didn't, but you have this thing called a seed box, which is basically, like, as I understand it, a computer that runs in the cloud, and that's where you do your piracy to. You got a virus scanner on there. If anything goes wrong, you just lose that virtual machine and you start again. But that keeps you safe. It's like this level of protection between you and the law and viruses and hackers and all of this stuff. Allegedly.
You know it's illegal, download copyrighted music. I'm taking you in.
Pay for music, never legally download.
From what I can remember that I never experienced, I mean, never heard of anybody ever experiencing this problem, nobody ever had this problem with Napster. Now, I know what you young ones are going to say. Why would you need to download music? After all, you can access any song from history on Spotify, Apple Music, Amazon Music, YouTube Music, etc. But I present the following counter-argument. I am very curious as to what this is, Dave, because it's got to be strong, because music is such a better experience these days. Whilst I have access to all of these services, apart from Spotify, wow, I think I have access to none of those services except for Spotify. Oh no, I do have YouTube Music because it comes with premium. Whilst I have access to all these services apart from Spotify, I only listen to perhaps 100 different songs on a regular basis. Really? Really? I listen to all sorts of shit. Who the f*** is Lars Ulrich?
It's some kind of emo thing. I don't know what the f- it is.
Back when I was downloading new albums, I mean, purchasing new albums as they came out, I would actually take the time to sit down and listen to them all the way through, thereby both expanding my musical horizons and actually enjoying music, rather than just using it as something to cover up the inexorable ticking noise of my life slowly draining away whilst I work. It was, in short, better. Or, dude, just when a new album comes out, sit down and listen to it. To my left, I have a chair, a nice pair of headphones, and a little amplifier that I use for listening to music. In fact, the headphones are so good, but I've started listening. I got Tidal. I've started listening to like old albums that I really liked. And because the headphones are so good, I've never listened to these albums in such quality before. And it's like a whole new experience. It's fantastic. Spoof emails. Again, I'm fully aware that it is possible to send an email and have it appear to have come from whatever address you want. If it weren't, then our spam folders would be empty. Online scams would be marginally easier to detect than they are now, and lots of people who were born and bred in India but nevertheless have suspiciously Western names like Bill, Steve, and Dave would have to get proper jobs. So why is it that, so, example, I got a phishing email yesterday, and this is a very common one for YouTubers, PSA, watch out for it. You'll get an email and it'll be like, Dear Simon, or usually it's like, Dear channel name, ! Dear Brainblaze, ! We really love your content. I'm a represent, and it reads pretty good. Like, they've worked it out. It's like, I am from Canon Europe, and we want you to test out our new products. Can we send you this new Canon camera? And then you reply, and then they send you an email with a PDF to download information about the integration that is never going to happen. And that's when you get a virus on your computer and they take control of your YouTube channel. They try to sell people bitcoins that Elon Musk is giving them for free or something like that. It's ridiculous, but it happens. And the problem is, it's always from like john.cannon@abcmail.com. And it's like, bro, if you actually worked at Canon, it would be for canon.com, wouldn't it? So, wait... Can we not spoof these? I thought Dave said we can just spoof them. But why aren't you spoofing steve@canon.com? Back in the day, though, sending a spoof email was easy. I mean, really easy. Assuming you had a reasonable knowledge of how Telnet worked and had access to an SMTP server, then you could send an email from whoever you wanted in a matter of seconds. I do remember this, though. Now, I'm not going to tell you how to do it for two reasons. Firstly, it's incredibly boring, or at least it would be incredibly boring for Simon to read out. Secondly, depending on the security of the mail server you choose, it is still technically possible to do. In fact, given that this is extremely unlikely... Oh, okay, so Dave's saying it was better in the past when we could do this. How is that better? It just makes us more scammable. In fact, given that it is extremely unlikely the script will be recorded for a couple of weeks, I shall send Simon a spoof email to see if he falls for it. I haven't got there yet, so I guess I did record it. I'm not going to tell him about it in advance, so if it works, he will at this very moment be putting the pieces together. Unfortunately, for those of... Did you send the Canon email, Dave? I don't think so, because I googled it just out of curiosity about the scam, and that's how I found out that it was truly a scam. Not that I really thought it was real anyway.
Got him! Got him!
Unfortunately for those of us who enjoy carrying out the occasional elaborate prank on our friends, the internet users who insist on using email spoofing for nefarious purposes have ruined it for everybody. Nowadays, most outgoing mail servers have security features in place which make it difficult. Very few things online are actually impossible if you're prepared to put in the necessary time and effort to send fake emails. Poor show, internet. You used to be cool. No, Dave! Again, I completely disagree with you. This was worst in the past because people could fake their emails. Yeah, it's fun for a prank, but you're also going to have loads of people getting scammed all the time. So, Dave, you're wrong again. Statement of fact. Surveillance cameras. When I was about 17, the town I lived in spent a huge amount of money on fancy internet-connected security cameras. A friend of mine set this up in his apartment building. Like he's the guy in their apartment building who knows the most about technology. So he was like, "Yeah, I'll put up the IP cameras in the building." And then he was like, I think he was halfway through setting it up. He popped out for lunch and he left the door to like their server area open, and someone went in, nicked all the cameras and the computer equipment.
Excuse me, what are you doing?
These cameras covered not only the entire center of town, but also many local parks, busy streets, and even the local train station. If Dave is about to say that this is bad, I'm like, are security cameras everywhere bad? I feel they put people off crime, and then when there's a serious crime, they can go back and look at the footage. Do I care that someone's watching me pick my nose in the park? No, no one cares. Although these cameras were exceptionally sophisticated, the people who installed, maintained, and ran the system were not, and therefore they had not bothered to do anything like changing the default access passwords. Holy shit. Should I tell this story?
Bing, 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 bong, 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 bong. Get those lights off. Bing, 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 bing.
I was in a soft play last weekend, like where the kids play, and they got one of those candy floss machines, the automatic ones. And my whole life is like when I see one of those machines, all I want to do is like fuck it up. Like, I want to see if I can break it. Like, not actually break it, like, physically, but just, you know, through tapping on the screen, see if I can, like, load YouTube or whatever. And with this one, I'm like, cool. I worked my way out. I worked out how to get to the, like, installers menu, and then it asked me for a password. The password was 123456, and then it's like, cool, I could set the price of candy floss to whatever I wanted. It was that easy. People don't change default passwords. It even said the password has 6 digits. So I'm like, okay, 123456. Why tell me how many digits it has? Because I put in like 1, 2, 3, 4. It said the password has 6 digits. And I'm like, okay. So I feel like you could put in A, B, C, D, E, F. And it'd be like, the password is only numbers. And you'd be like, it's terrible security.
Well then, it's hacking time.
As a result of this oversight, assuming one could attain the camera's IP addresses, you could very easily browse into them and be provided with the sort of security camera access that you see in poorly researched hacking movies. Obviously, it wasn't quite as simple as typing the IP address into your web browser and entering the password, but given that the make and model of the cameras had been widely publicized as part of a Look What the Council is Doing for Local Safety article, and the controller software was available free of charge on the manufacturer's website, many people, not even those who were particularly computer literate, were able to access the footage. This wasn't just limited to one town either. As far as I remember, the particular security camera manufacturer had secured quite a lucrative contract. Not for long. And many of these cameras were installed all over the south coast. Unfortunately, it wasn't just people getting a look at local CCTV cameras. Before people started taking security online more seriously, lots of things such as Wi-Fi enabled baby monitors, etc. were susceptible to the same default password security flaws, and some really creepy stuff went down. Yeah, I mean, people used to, like, internet security back in the day used to be a joke. Someone who definitely wasn't me, there was a program which would like trawl the internet for IPs. So you'd put in your IP or whatever. I don't even know if you put your own IP in, but you could start like with an IP range, and then it would just start just scanning through all of these open IPs to see if and then it would be like, no, this one doesn't have a firewall, this one doesn't have a firewall, this one doesn't have a firewall, and then you could click on them, and it'd be like, cool, you can send documents to their printer, you could see their files, and it was like, this is wild. Obviously something I never did because that would be illegal. Nowadays, and like properly illegal, I didn't do it.
What's going on? Y'all are going to jail! Period!
Nowadays, any manufacturer of surveillance equipment that is worthy of obtaining your money either ships their products with individual passwords or more commonly forces you to change the default password during the setup process. While it was allegedly entertaining to spy on the various goings-on around town, especially since although the council promised everybody that the cameras were not recording audio, they were. Holy shit. Dude, council be lying. I think that on balance, it's better that these security flaws have now been exposed. Imagine, if you will, the utter terror that you would experience if while passing your child's bedroom, you hear the voice of a stranger issuing from your baby monitor. This is a thing that's actually happened, right? Imagine how much more terrifying it would be if you became aware that they also had access to the video feed. Yeah, it would be weird, although, like, we've got baby monitors at home and they've got little screens, but the screen is pretty redundant. Generally, the camera's just like facing off in a random direction because all we need to do is like hear them cry. Like, I think we used to have monitors on them when they were babies, so you could see if they're like, you know, oh, they've got their leg trapped in the side of the cage. And by cage, I mean cot. Don't know why I said cage. It's like a cage, though.
Believe it or not, jail.
And then you'd be like, okay, I'll go fix that. But nowadays, it's just noise. Nudging people to the point of insanity. There was a... Gotta hurry up with this. I got a live stream starting in 5 minutes.
You are accused of treason. The court finds you guilty and sentenced you to be shot.
There was subscribe, become a member, enjoy the live streams. Why not? There was a time not so long ago when the only way that 12 to 18-year-olds communicated was through an app called MSN Messenger. Yes, there was. I remember it well. Although those, someone who's editing this, play the MSN sound, like the or whatever it was. I'm probably misremembering, but I remember that sound well. Although
What have I done?
Although those who were teens during the early 2000s thought they were at the cutting edge of the technology, sending screen messages and having video calls with people on the other side of the world, MSN, I'd just be having like text chats with my mates from school. That was it. On the other side of the world, please. I wasn't that fancy. MSN Messenger was actually around as early as Windows 95, though it was called something else. Microsoft NetMeeting, a default program included with Windows 95, 98, and I believe 2000, could theoretically at least send screen messages, make voice calls, make video calls, and allow you to share your screen. Oh my god, this was ahead of its time. If anybody watching this is older than me and remembers actually getting the software to work on anything larger than a local area network, then please do let me know in the comments. Anyway, I digress. Yeah, it can be supported over a local area network because the speed between those computers is going to be relatively quick, but online, on like a 56.6K, I mean, please. Anyone younger than 25 watching this is like, what the fuck you be talking about? Shortly after the release of MSN Messenger, they installed a feature called Send a Nudge. Oh my god, I remember this about brr, brr, brr. For those of you who don't remember, this feature, when clicked, would play an exceptionally annoying noise on the recipient's computer in order to remind them that they were in fact talking to you and were being exceptionally rude by ignoring you. Yeah, and you could just press the shit over and over again. The trouble was, though, although the number of nudges you could send within any given time was limited in later releases, when it first came out, you could send as many as you wanted. Furthermore, there was a slight glitch in the program, which meant that if you continuously clicked the nudge button, then not only would your victim's computer repeatedly play the annoying noise, but the screen would freeze, and they would not be able to do anything about it. As I said, this was quickly remedied in later releases, but it was definitely fun while it lasted. I remember it well. And it wasn't better, Dave, it was worse. Browsing ad-free. Imagine, if you will, the following scenario. You want to look something up online, so you head to whichever room in your house currently contains your internet-connected PC. Oh, the past. Only the very rich had laptops that you could move around with, and early Wi-Fi, for want of better description, sucked balls. Once you had loaded your search engine of choice, a process that, depending on your internet connection, could take several minutes, you would carry out your search, read the results, and that would be it. No pop-ups, no random advertisements for things you don't want, just the information you were looking for. I don't find the internet's that bad with ads. If that doesn't sound crazy enough, search engines were far less sophisticated back then, with the result that your search would pull up the things you search for rather than the things Google thought you ought to be searching for. Dude, that recommendation thing, you know, Google used to say, like, if you search something, or it still does, and then you get the suggested searches. I swear to God, those became like a month ago, and I don't know why. They used to be good, and now they're What happened?
Sometimes may be good, sometimes may be shit.
This lag of interfering algorithms had an additional bonus. Although online echo chambers certainly existed, people with stupid ideas will invariably search out others with those same stupid ideas, be that in real life or online. At least these people had to actively search for one another rather than being shepherded together. Of course, it was not long before the huge monetary potential of online advertising became clear to everybody, but there were a few short years during which, if you wanted to see an advert for bedsheets that ground you... What? Oh, wait, this is a callback to an earlier video where there was the bed sheets that grounded your body for some reason. Lonely naked women in your area, or online therapists who employ people with no therapy qualifications. Not a sponsor of me. Then you would have to search for them yourself. Better times. Making a killing on domain sales. When businesses eventually realized that the internet was going to be massive, they quickly set about making terrible websites to advertise themselves. If you're at all familiar with building websites, then you know that in order to have your website appear on the internet, you need to use Squarespace. Just regular sponsor of the show. Nah, you need to purchase a domain name, which you can do through Squarespace, a regular sponsor of the show. For those of you who have been living under a rock for the last 50 years, a domain name is what you type into your browser after the www dot, so it knows where to go to find a website. Before people started taking the internet as seriously as they do now, domain names could be purchased ridiculously cheaply, and as a result, if you bought, for example, Harrods.com before Harrods themselves did, then there would be nothing they could do about it apart from paying you for the right to use it. Is that true? I thought there was there was rules against this. Like, if you're buying a .com just to squat on it, that there was problems with that. A friend of mine did this back in 1999. A large new shopping complex was being constructed on the south coast of England with a generic non-branded name. That's the trick. Being the enterprising soul that he is, he quickly went online and purchased all of the domain names that even sounded like the new shopping complex and waited. Sure enough, he would shortly receive a letter from the developers of the complex telling him that he was the registered owner of their website address and instructing him to hand it over. It's where the shot from there, isn't it? Shit.
Hand it over, that thing, your dark soul.
Unfortunately for them, he was under no legal obligation to do so, and when they refused to pay him the very reasonable amount he requested in order to relinquish the address, he simply put up a website covered in silly animations and left it there. As a result of this, when anybody tried to find this well-known complex online, the first page they would see contained an animated image of a bear standing in some water and a synthesized rendition of the bare necessities from the Jungle Book. I wish I could tell you the name of the complex, but as far as I'm aware, it is possible to track domain ownership back through the years, and my friend would be less than pleased to be outed online. What, he didn't use who is privacy? After many threats of legal action, they eventually did pay him to relinquish the domain, and the URL quickly linked to a much more boring website. For anybody who is capable of a little forethought, this could have been quite a lucrative investment back in the day. Unfortunately, companies have wised up to it, and one of the first things people do when launching any kind of new business is both check for and purchase the domain. And that's where we end today's episode. Thank you for watching. Off to do a live stream.